Good day. Today's lesson is all about understanding prefabs and instantiation in Unity. The objectives of this lesson is to gain knowledge about prefabs, discover how to create prefabs, learn how to instantiate and destroy game objects at runtime. Instantiating and destroying objects is essential in creating interesting gameplay. Knowing when to need the objects and when you don't is important in developing a good game. Let us first understand what prefabs are. Prefabs are somewhat copies of a game object that can be duplicated and put into a scene even if it did not exist when the scene was being made. What's great about prefabs is that they can be generated at runtime, when the game is playing. Creating prefabs is fairly easy. You just have to click and drag the desired game object from the hierarchy view to the assets folder of the project view. It is also preferable to create a prefabs folder to store all your prefabs and keep things organized, but it is not required. The instantiate method is called in the script to spawn the prefab we just created. It needs a game object prefab as a parameter, so it knows which game object to create or duplicate. Take note that the instantiate method takes prefab game objects as the parameter. Now, let's try instantiating a new hexagon whenever the space button is pressed. To do this, we must first need to create a new script and name it Instantiator. Double-click the script to open it up in Visual Studio. Inside the script, we'll create the code as shown in the image. As you can see, what we've done is that we created a public variable named hexagon, which will reference the prefab object that we created a while ago. Then, inside the update method, we utilize the input class of Unity, so whenever the user presses on the space key, a hexagon will instantiate in the scene. Let's discuss the code in more depth. As stated earlier, we utilize the input class and use the getKeyDown method to check if the player pressed the space key. This is part of the key code enum and is used as one of the parameters of the getKeyDown method. We have also created a public variable named hexagon, which stores the prefab that we will use to spawn the object into the scene. Just like before, this public variable will appear in the script as a modifiable field from the inspector view. Now we can save the script and let it compile. Afterwards, create an empty game object by right-clicking anywhere in the hierarchy view and select Create Empty. This will create an empty game object with only the transform component present in the inspector view. Name it as Instantiator object so it would be recognizable, then attach our newly created script to it. Next, from the inspector view, drag the hexagon prefab we created into the hexagon field of the script. You will know that you have attached a prefab because of the small blue cube beside its name, which indicates that the object is a prefab. If we click play and press the space key, we can see in the hierarchy view that a new hexagon object is created. If you notice, there is only one hexagon object in the game view, and that is because the object is being instantiated on top of the other. When instantiating game objects, it is also important that we destroy them, especially when we don't need them anymore. This will save us some space and make our game run more efficiently. Destroying game objects is just as easy as creating them. We just need to call the destroy method and use the object that needs to be removed as the parameter. Let's make an example by creating 5 hexagons and destroying them with assigned keys. We'll start by creating a new script called Hexagon Destroyer. Double-click the file to open it up in Visual Studio. Then, create the code as shown in the image on the screen. As you can see, we created a public keycode variable named key2destroy. Keycode is an enum which lists all the possible keys on a standard keyboard. By making this variable public, as we did with rigid body and prefabs previously, we can make it accessible through the editor. We can then use this variable to add flexibility to our code. Observe how we use the GameObject variable with small g and capital O in the method. This new GameObject variable of type GameObject is used to refer to the GameObject instance that the script is attached to. If you attach this script on multiple objects, they will all react the same way whenever this variable is involved. On the other hand, the GameObject with capital G and capital O is the Unity class which provides all the methods such as instantiating, destroying, and fetching components. We can now save the script, let it compile, and go back to the Unity editor. Next, let's create a new hexagon GameObject and name it something recognizable like destructible hexagon. Then, attach the script we created by dragging it into the GameObject from the hierarchy view. Now, right-click on the GameObject from the hierarchy view and select Duplicate. This will create another hexagon object that has the same components as its source. Repeat this step 4 more times until you have 5 hexagon game objects in the hierarchy view. Make sure to reposition them using the Move tool so each object is clearly visible in the scene. We will now select the first hexagon object and choose a key in the Key2Destroy field from the Inspector view. This will be the key that the user needs to press to destroy that specific game object. Repeat the same process for the other remaining hexagons. In the meantime, make sure that not one object contains the same key to destroy. Click on play and press on one of the keys you selected. You will notice that one of the 5 hexagons will disappear or will be destroyed in the scene. It will also be removed from the hierarchy view. Exit play mode and let's try changing things up a bit. Try setting 2 hexagon objects to have the same key to destroy value and click on play. If you press that key, you will notice that 2 hexagon objects were removed from the scene. This is an example of the small g and capital O game object reference. Take note that destroying a game object simply means to stop its lifetime in the game encode. Furthermore, the references and links to the object will also be broken and will result in errors or crashes when you try to access or use them. Here are the references for this lesson. Thank you for watching.